Brent Slava, how we doing today?
What's up,
What's
man?
up, man?
What's up?
Brent Slava, everyone, if you don't know, is the head of Benzinga's news desk. And there are very few people that I would go to before Brent when it comes to the question of interpreting news and how I should interpret it, but B, how the market will interpret it. So with Brent, we don't like so much looking at like headlines in the last week. Brent likes doing some more educational stuff. So
Yes.
that being said, Brent, let's talk about offerings. Why?
Sure.
Because you could argue, and I'm sure people are, we've mentioned this on pre-market prep in the past couple of days, that this entire Archo blow up thing, you could argue that was initiated by an offering from Viacom last week. And that probably kicked off some of the selling and some of the margin calls there. So offerings are a common tool companies use for good, sometimes not so great. Sometimes they're necessary, right?
Usually it's good. I mean,
Usually
good for the company. Good for the company. That's different
Right.
for investors, right?
In most cases, good for the company and good for investors, but not in all cases. So maybe you can start with the different types of offerings that we get.
Yeah, sure. And let's this is like offerings is really a pretty high level piece of news if you ask me. Because remember, the whole point of the stock market is to give financing for these companies, right? That's exactly what an offering is. It's a company going to the market and going, hey, we could use some capital, or we think this is a prudent time to raise capital. Can you help us? And so, yeah, Spence. So if we're going to start with, so today I want to go over, types of offerings like you're highlighting, where we can find offerings in Benzinga Pro.
Yeah.
How we can understand them as a news item. And then like that'll kind of be clumped in with like the significance of offerings. And so let's start with the types of offerings. So there's an offering where a company just goes right to the market. They offer capital. They're going to get proceeds from the offering, and the investors are going to be diluted, right? There also is something called a shelf offering. And a shelf offering this is the way I think about it. This isn't, technically how it works, but I think it's an effective way to think about it. Shelf offering is when a company is registering shares that they will potentially offer. They don't have to offer them. The way that I like to think about it is they're putting the offering on the shelf, and if they want to tap that financing need, they can go grab it off the shelf, and then they can do the offering. So when you see in Benzinga Pro or wherever you're looking at news, a shelf offering, what you want to know is it's likely the company is going to do the offering, but there's a chance they might not do the offering. When they're registering the shares, they're alerting Wall Street, they're alerting investors that they might do this offering, but you're going to hear about it later when they actually disclose that they're going to be doing this offering. The last kind of offering that I want to highlight is an offering via selling shareholders. And so that's when a group of investors or an individual investor reaches out to a company or to one of their brokers and says, hey, we want to sell some shares in the company. What's special about when a company is doing an offering via selling shareholders is that the company isn't going to be receiving proceeds from that offering. The shareholders are going to be receiving proceeds from when they sold those shares. So for selling shareholder offering, just remember that the company isn't going to be able to tap into that financing it was on the shareholder side of things.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but an offering via selling shareholders, that's not dilutive, right? That's not new money. Those aren't shares.
The fund is selling shares that they already have. Yes.
Right.
Not
dilutive, and the company does not get the proceeds of. It's not like the company wants to raise money. It's like, hey, this investor wants to sell.
For whatever reason. Could be good reasons, could be bad reasons.
Yes.
You have to dig a little bit more into it. Maybe, you could learn a little bit about the fund or the firm that's going to be doing the offering, the selling, and maybe you could understand some of their strategy around the sale, right?
Yep.
Cool. So that was 3 types of offerings that we're going to go over really quick.
So again, to recap.
Yeah.
Regular offering.
Yep.
Shelf offering
Yep.
offering via selling shareholders.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
And the market is going to react differently to each of these, and we'll get into that when we talk about sort of like the significance and how to understand these things a little bit. So got about 8 minutes left or so,
Yeah.
Spence. In those 8 minutes, I'm going to give you some direction on Benzinga Pro. I want you to pull up a couple things on Benzinga Pro, okay?
Let's go.
Whoa, look at this. You're already trying a
Yep.
little search there.
Yep.
So you can find offering news on source BZ Wire. If you click the sources button, Spence, thank you, sir. You can see that Spence only has Benzinga Wire checked. Benzinga Wire is all of the content that's generated by our team of reporters, whether it's somebody who's working on breaking news for Benzinga Pro headlines or a Benzinga.com article. So that's just that one there, Spence. So go back to your newsfeed now. Thank you, sir. And so you could use a keyword search here. You could search like Spence was before he cleared it. He was searching something much more specific. He was searching offering via selling shareholders. He wanted to target specifically those offerings for selling shareholders. You could just use the word offering. And here's a lot of the offering news. You also could use your category filter. So get rid of your
That's probably a cleaner way to do it.
Probably a cleaner way, yeah. And so it's under news. So hit the news one, and then it's alphabetized. So yep, click offering. Let's just see what it looks like, Spence. Cool. So here was, and again, a way to put this is here is all of the headlines that a Benzinga Pro reporter identified as being related to offering type of news item. They went into our backend system and they clicked the category that said offering. That's how it wound up here in this filter. Now, another way, and this is for a little bit of a deeper researcher, a deeper user for Benzinga Pro, you can use the offering category, Spence, in tandem with a press release.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, walk me.
So go to your source.
Going back to my offerings.
He's going back to his offerings. So he's clicking news, clicking his offerings. Now click on your source, Spence.
Yeah.
And then turn off BZ Wire. We'll just be focused, and then hit press releases.
Right. Oh, this is a new.
So think about this way. If you are somebody who loves the Benzinga Wire, you love the work that the Benzinga reporters are doing, use Benzinga Wire. If you're somebody who is getting overwhelmed with there's literally thousands of press releases and SC filings that come in every day to Benzinga Pro. If you get overwhelmed by all of that content, use Benzinga Wire. However, if you're somebody who wants to get a little bit deeper research, you can be looking at the actual information that the reporters on the team are looking at themselves and then making decisions about posting stuff to BZ Wire. And that's how you would look with either the press release source or the SEC source.
Yep. I've never actually done that. I've never actually filtered out a press release newsfeed by categories, but that is a way.
Kind of cool, right?
As Brent said here, let me just show, just to give you an idea of just the deluge of press releases. This is no one can read all this.
This is a few minutes.
This is a few a minute, right? And especially in the morning, it's hundreds in an hour.
This is like what we're as reporters for Benzinga Pro. This is like our bread and butter. This is like what we're good at.
Right.
So we can help a ton with the filtering out and identifying of what's important and putting it into a easily consumable format for that BZ Wire.
Right. So you can see just by filtering that one thing, offerings, I went from thousands of headlines today to
5 or 6, right? Yep. Exactly. And so the other thing that I would just want to note with how you're filtering and finding these, so the shelf offering, Spence, shelf offering is almost always, I'm trying to think, I think there might have been 1 or 2 offerings in the last 100 or 500 offering news items that have not come in through an SEC filing. The shelf offering is largely going to come in through the SEC's Edgar online database. Okay. And so if you happen to be wanting to target shelf offerings for your strategy, cool. You'll just have to use the SEC feed. And I don't think you can do any kind of like unfortunately, really good feedback for us. We definitely want to be able to apply some of those filters for our categories to stuff like SEC. We can do it for press releases. Why not do it for SEC filings? Definitely something we can be working on.
But again, you can always do a keyword search. So offering.
You can that might work, Spence. The form that is specifically for offering for shelf offerings is at S3. So let's see if that works. Maybe that might work. Maybe I think you have to do a hyphen. Yes. Yes.
Let's see if that works.
It looks like there's some noise in there, right?
Yeah.
Not as clean as we would like it, definitely.
Not super clean. Not super clean.
So let's really quickly touch on, understanding these and like the significance. So you hit on the key for offering, Spence, at least from the market's perspective. The market is very concerned with dilution of its shareholders, right? So when a company does an offering and they're going to put out, $7 million in shares, people that are already invested are now $7 million less rich in a way, right? You think that's a fine way to put it? Each of their shares are being diluted because there's now more shareholders out there. However, if a company is like in some dire need of financing, maybe the street doesn't care about dilution. Maybe they're just like, oh, thank God they got $7 million more in capital. We really needed that capital. And it was the $7 million hump that we're now going to have that we can get over, whatever hurdle we needed to, and we're going to be fine after that. So that's the case where the market maybe would like an offering news item.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's not as clean as, oh, there's an offering news item, short the stock, or the stock's going to go lower. Doesn't really work that way. And especially you got to consider, like you were suggesting, Spencer, you got to consider, is it, a direct normal offering? Is it shelf offering? Is it a selling shareholders offering? If it's selling shareholders offering, it's definitely not, super easy that the stock's just going to start falling right away.
Right. And oftentimes, these offerings can serve as the catalyst for a trend, right? So if you go, I mentioned Viacom. This was actually an unusual situation anyway, so maybe not the best example, but if I pull my chart here, zoom out and make it a little bigger. All right, so that offering was priced at the top. Literally, they
right
offering at the top. Now, there's a lot of funky stuff going on with Viacom.
Right.
This is not a normal situation, but in more normal circumstances, offerings can serve as a floor. Like the offer, wherever they price an offering.
That's a really good point, Spence.
Serve as a floor.
Wherever it prices, you're saying, right?
So in this case,
that's smart.
In this case, it's serving as a ceiling. In this case, the offering price was what? 84, if memory serves. I don't remember.
I can't remember, Spence. Yeah.
Somewhere in the 80s. And that's a long ways away. But so in this case, it's serving as a ceiling. But oftentimes they serve as a floor. And so that can help direct your trend.
And one more quick thing, Spence. Just think about, I would bet there would be investors in Viacom who, if the company didn't do an offering up there, they would have been like, "What the hell? Why didn't they do an offering? Didn't they want capital at a really good price?"
Yeah. I mean, that's what people were saying about GameStop all the way up. Like, guys, are you raising money? Because
we could raise $2 billion right here. Yeah, exactly.
Brent said it earlier. And what is an offering at its core? It's one of the main reasons why a company would even choose to go public in the capital markets, so they can access liquidity whenever they want or need it. Yep. Right. So whoever, I think it was Joel Kalina, said on Pre-Market Prep this morning, the best trader in Viacom. We just talked about the Viacom situation. Best trader in Viacom was a Viacom CFO. Right.
That's a funny way to put it.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, okay. Recap. Shelf offerings, regular offering via selling shareholders. Brent Slava is the head of the Benzinga Pro news desk. The guy is the man when it comes to this stuff. Again, when you are a subscriber to Benzinga Pro, you don't just get like all the features, all the bells and whistles we just showed you. You get access to people like Brent. Like when you ask questions, he's expected to answer, right? Yep. That's one of the key features of a Benzinga Pro subscription. And I'm going to mention, as I always do, or I always put out on the screen, but don't actually say it. If you enter the code YouTube47, that'll get you 47% off the price of a monthly Benzinga Pro subscription.
That's a nice little savings.
Annually. Yes, it is.
And for any BZ Pro members, get a hold of me.
Yeah. See, Brent's lonely at home. Say what up. I don't know how long.
Thanks for having me on, Spence. Have a good day, man. Later, everybody.